Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Play Your Faves, the show where I take your favorite characters from TV, movies, video games, and books and turn them into D&D character sheets that you can just take and play. First things first, sorry this has been on hiatus for so long. If you want to know a few more details about why this has been so late, check out the video I did yesterday. But with that said, let's actually just get to the character sheet. So. Today we are doing Green Lantern. I actually had someone on Twitter ask me to do the entire emotional spectrum of lanterns, which I'm going to try and do. Green Lantern is going to be the first because he's the one everybody knows, but I'm going to try and get all of them and make them play a little bit differently based on, how their rings work and everything. So this should be kind of cool. I'm not going to do all of them in a row because that will burn my brain out. I'll kind of do a lantern and then something else, and then a lantern and something else. But anyway, we're going to start with Green Lantern. If you're not familiar with him, he is a superhero from DC. And he's actually part of this kind of intergalactic kind of police force thing called the Green Lantern Corps. And the important things about Green Lantern are basically the way you become a Green Lantern, because there's tons of them, is a Green Lanternling will choose you, and they're power for the ring and the control for the ring is based on the person's will power. So in order to be chosen by a Green Lantern ring, you need to have a strong will, which is kind of where I got my inspiration for the class and some of the features. So with Green Lantern, the first thing you'll notice is the other characters I've actually put their name there because there's so many Green Lanterns, and technically anyone with a strong will could become a Green Lantern. This is actually a generic character sheet for any Green Lantern you want to be. So that means I left a few things blank so that you can fill in what you want. And I also again, normally I have all the backstory and everything there. All that's blank because as a Green Lantern you can really choose. You can make yourself one of the well-known ones, or you can go with whatever you want. So let's start with the stats. Again, Green Lantern is willpower, and I thought because what the lantern rings do is very, very much kind of magic adjacent. If you were to translate it into a D&D game, I wanted it to be a spellcaster of some kind, and sorcerers are spellcasters that use just inborn talent and kind of will their magic into being. So I figured a sorcerer would fit well for Green Lantern, and obviously charisma is the highest stat over here. Because again, that's their willpower. That's what we're going to treat as the willpower. I also did dexterity and constitution because Green Lanterns and lanterns in general can fly and kind of dodge around things, and then they can take a bit of the hit. The ring gives them the ability to absorb a fair amount of a beating. I figured with, especially when you look at characters like Hal Jordan, one of the more popular Green Lanterns of Earth. He's not stupid by any means, but he is a little bit more of kind of street smart than highly educated. And with the focus on will, it just kind of made sense that we'd go wisdom over in intelligence, and then strength. I needed a dump stat, and because the ring kind of amplifies their own strength, and with sorcerers, the magic is going to amplify their own magic, or their own strength. I figured they didn't need to be super buff or anything, despite, Hal Jordan being a Air Force test pilot. He's probably in pretty decent shape, but it's much more important for him to be very dexterous than it is for him to be able to bench 1,000 pounds. I also made, for the race human, again, with Green Lantern, and I'll show you with the rest of the character. I really built this so you can be any race you want, because Green Lanterns can be from any planet and any species. But I chose human because it's kind of the neutral, and that basically gave us the 15 here, and I for the 4th level, either feat or ability score improvement, I just added 2 more there. So I had 15 here. I had 14 Dex, 13 Constitution plus 1 because we used the human variant, and then we have 12, 10, 8. And then for skills, again, I kind of focused on the things I thought he would be a Green Lantern would use the most. Arcana is kind of going to be the equivalent of just lantern knowledge. How the rings work and stuff. All of that is magic, so it made sense to give him a little training in Arcana, but not crazy high stat. Insight is another kind of willpower, street smart thing where you can kind of read his enemies and things like that. Perception, obviously, being a warrior that flies around. And again, if we base it on Hal Jordan, he was a pilot. They need really good vision. And then persuasion, he had to have some sort of charisma-based skill. I didn't think it would make sense for him to not be trained in his most useful thing. And persuasion just is another kind of willpower thing, kind of imposing your will on someone else is a persuasion. You could call it a intimidation, but persuasion made more sense to me. So we've got that. Now again, I skip personality traits because that's each Green Lantern is going to be different, and I skipped flaws because each Green Lantern is going to be different. But the ideals, I did have to put this in. This is one of the Green Lantern oaths. This is my personal favorite. They've had a couple variations, but this one's definitely my favorite. In brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. Great, I love that. I actually have a Oath of Vengeance paladin that I created his mark of enmity or whatever, Oath of Enmity. I created a vow he makes, and I based it on the Green Lantern oath. So it's kind of cool. And then the bond, again, being a Green Lantern, you get the ring to protect a sector. So yeah, that's the only stuff I put there. So let's talk about the subclass, because that really is what I think starts creating the Green Lantern feel to it. I went with Storm Soul for a couple of reasons. Probably the biggest being Green Lantern, one of his kind of defining features is he can fly. And Storm Soul gives you quite a few different ways that you can fly and move around and stuff like that. So I thought it really fit well with the Green Lantern. Tempestuous magic, basically anytime you cast a leveled spell, you can use your bonus action to fly up to 10 feet. Again, that starts getting this idea of Green Lantern just being able to fly and being very maneuverable, things like that. Just realized I've already forgotten what one of those means. I think I have to go back to my book here. Hold, please. Oh, that's what they are. Okay, so Heart of the Storm is basically anytime you cast a spell that does thunder damage or lightning damage, you can actually cause a leveled spell. You can actually cause people within, I think it's 5 or 10 feet, to take lightning or thunder damage. So this is another thing of kind of seeing Green Lantern do something and just like, brah, kind of like that, which you've seen a couple of times as a reaction to getting hit. He's just like, things are on him, he just, pow, blast it off, go for it. And then Storm Guide basically allows him to control weather around him. Nothing too intense, like he can turn off the rain, turn it on, or he can make the wind blow in a specific direction. I don't see it really fitting into the Green Lantern, but it's part of the thing. Then Warcaster. Warcaster is a really great feat for mages in general, and it gives a bunch of different things. It gives him, I believe it's advantage. I might be wrong on this. It's either advantage or your intelligence modifier. No, it's advantage to concentration checks, so that it's much more difficult for him to lose a spell due to damage, which is a very Lantern thing. Again, it's all based on will. It lets him use cantrips for opportunity attacks, which again really removes the need for using the. I have a dagger here just because it comes with a dagger, but he's going to use his Lantern ring for everything. So that Warcaster just kind of gets that in there. Now, I use the variant human, so he got Warcaster as his feat. If you don't use a human, just at level 4, take Warcaster, and it'll take you just a little bit longer to get to max Charisma, which is what you're going to want. The other thing about sorcerers, obviously, is metamagic. This is how they modify their spells on the fly. And again, it's a very Green Lantern kind of thing, that he can kind of manipulate and change things. That's what Lanterns do, is they create constructs and use them to attack. And it's really just based on their imagination. The more creative they are, the more unique things they can do. So for metamagic, I kind of chose two, I guess, interesting ones. I chose Subtle Spell because it just gives Green Lantern a little more utility, and it kind of leans back onto that idea of being powered by will. Even if someone tries to silence him, Subtle Spell means he doesn't actually have to speak incantations or anything to cast a spell. So which is his Green Lantern ring. And then Distant Spell is that other aspect of them just being able to manipulate and change things. Distant Spell basically means you can hit things much farther away, which Green Lantern in general kind of goes between being an up-close and personal thing where he'll throw punches or create melee weapons out of it, or going far back and using guns and beams of light and stuff like that. So Distant Spell kind of gives that ability to really reach far. So that's that. And then the final thing is the spells. This is what really defines a caster in general. And this is how we're going to kind of really focus on Green Lantern. And the thing we want to focus on is the idea that Green Lanterns create what are called constructs, which are they use light to create items that they fight with. And they can be everything from dropping a piano on someone, creating a sword, creating a machine gun. That's what they do, a giant fist. So all of these spells are going to kind of be based on the idea that he's creating things and then attacking with them. Now, we talked a while ago about the idea of flavor text. Green Lantern is really flavor text heavy. Every time you cast a spell, you should really be flavor texting it. And I'll go into some examples in a little bit. But let's start with prestidigitation. One of the things you can use it for is to create little items. You can create up to 3 at a time. That's like textbook construct stuff. Now, you can't use these items to do damage or anything like that. But it is just a really good example of Green Lantern. The second being light. Green Lantern's light. Yeah, you really can't help but do that. Chill Touch is going to be the first of the spells that we really will be doing a lot of flavor texting with. Chill Touch normally sends a hand out that hits them and slows them down. So with Green Lantern, you could say, well, I use my power ring and I fire forth these bands that hit him hard and then weigh his arms and legs down, because that would slow their movement speed. Things like that. Shocking Grasp is going to be your kind of basic melee attack. And again, Green Lantern has so many different things it does in melee that you can just very simply go, I create a sword and I slash at him, and just it still does the shocking damage. And the cool thing about Shocking Grasp is it actually prevents them from making opportunity attacks. So you can even go a little bit further of, I make a giant fist and I hit him and it rattles him a little bit or something like that. Again, flavor text the heck out of this stuff. As long as you're not changing mechanics, there's no reason not to. And every time you use Shocking Grasp or Chill Touch, you can make it a different thing every single time, because that's what Green Lantern would do. And then finally, Mage Hand. You see Green Lantern manipulate the world with his ring constantly. So Mage Hand will just let him do that at a smaller scale. Because he's not quite superhero yet. As you get higher up, you might take something like telekinesis, or just to really give that feeling. So now, getting into the spells themselves, we have Mage Armor, which is basically the Green Lantern's light protecting him. And as a sorcerer in general, this is a really useful spell, especially with how close this particular kind of sorcerer is going to get to his enemies. Shield, that's a constant thing you see Green Lantern do all the time. He even creates giant shields to protect himself, actual, buckler kind of shields. Or, he just creates a field that blocks enemy attacks. It's a very Green Lantern thing to do, is defend themselves with the ring. So we kind of had to go with that. Then Thunder Wave is going to be the first thing that kind of pulls double duty. First, because it does thunder damage, it's going to activate what was it called? Activate tempestuous magic. And the other thing is, this is your first attacking spell. And I kind of view it as something like taking a giant baseball bat and swinging, because what it does is it hits with thunder damage, and then it knocks them 10 feet back if it hits. So I would definitely flavor text this as, I make a giant baseball bat and swing for the fences. I throw a green grenade and it blows them back. Things like that. For third person, we have Shadow Blade, which is you create a sword out of darkness. Again, you can flavor text as you create a sword out of light, but that's right out of the Green Lantern handbook, and you can attack with it, and it's a really useful skill. So when you combine Shadow Blade with Mage Armor or Shield, you can run right into battle, attack with the Shadow Blade, and then use shield and mage armor to keep them from hitting you back if they survive your Shadow Blade Assault. And then hold person. This is another thing that Green Lantern does a lot, where he'll use his wing to cast bands around someone and bind them. And that, if you read hold person, that's actually the description of it in the PHB, is that these bands of energy come down and bind around him. So very much an iconic Green Lantern power. And then for level 3, lightning bolt. Again, this is going to be your ranged attack. This is going to be something that goes through multiple enemies and can hit multiple enemies. So you can turn this into, well, I fire just a beam of light that pierces through them, or I create a machine gun that just mows them down, or anything that really makes sense being long range. And then fly, we had to have fly, because, again, Green Lantern flies all the time. So we couldn't really avoid having fly. So that's Green Lantern. Like I said, I have the other lanterns planned and things. I haven't built their character sheets yet. But yeah, there will be more lanterns. Yellow Lantern, Blue Lantern, Red Lantern, all of those. I have ideas, and they're all going to be a little different. They're not all going to be sorcerers. In fact, there's only one other sorcerer lantern. The rest are going to be different spellcasters. So it should be really interesting. In the comments below, first things first, if you were making a Green Lantern, what class would you use, and what things would you focus on in that class to make the Green Lantern? Second, what other characters do you want to see me turn into a D&D character sheet? Now, like I said before, you can actually download this character sheet right on my Patreon. I'll have a link in the description below to just download it. And this is an Adventures League legal character. So if you want to use this as a template to build your own character that you can use in the Adventurers League, the only caveat is the Adventurers League, you have to start at level 1. So with this just being a single class, just start as a sorcerer and go for it. Keep flavor texting, keep going. This I think is a really cool character, and I think a lot of people will have fun with it. So anyway, that's all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.